it's beautiful to be in that position where your work is supported by organizations, but also ever since the beginning, we also have been supported by individuals. And one of the most dedicated and most polished fans we have had since our inception is Stephan Livera, the host of famous Stephan Livera podcast. So please, round of applause for him. Join me and please tell me why have you been a fan of our project since inception?
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, look, as you know, I'm a big fan of BTC Pay. I think it just, let's say, whatever you want to call this, Bitcoin, Maxi, community, whatever we are, many of us saw this as a way of making sure that people could easily set up their own shop. And, you know, like, everyone kind of remembers that kind of, this is lies, my trust is in you is broken, like that moment. And then, yeah, I just sort of saw you guys were building something really interesting. And I just thought, back in those days, like especially I saw, you know, Pavlenex, back in those days, he used to be called Bitcoin Shirt. That was what he used to be called back then. So that's how I first knew Pavlenex. And then obviously yourself, Rockstar. Yeah, I just thought this is an important project, and I've been using it for myself for years. And there are so many possible uses, right? Whether you're an online shop, whether you're a brick and mortar shop, whether you need donations, whether you're doing events, there's all of these things. And of course nowadays, like all of, different plugins and the swapping and even people who need like liquid integrations or, various other, protocol integrations and even swapping. So yeah, I mean, it's just such an important project, and I think it's one thing to just sort of say, yeah, just if you want to know, but how do you actually take the payments on that, right? And that's the thing that BTC Pay really enables you to do, and the various supportive things like invoices and PayJoin. It was an early PayJoin supporter as well, like PayJoin, not even just PayJoin V2 now, but I remember having PayJoin V1 on my BTCPay server. Now, I think maybe not a lot of people used it in those days, but at least we had it. So yeah, it's been a really cool thing. Especially for myself, I'm not like a super technical developer. Certainly pre-AI, nowadays I can like vibe slop some nonsense together, but pre-AI, I had no idea. So it was an easy thing that I could set up on Lunar Node, and I would even try to onboard other people onto my instance where they wanted donations and things like that. So, just so many uses of it, and it's just a really cool project.
Yeah, so we talk now about the past, but for the future of BTCPay Server, and you think about it, what is it, Stephan, that we can do better? Especially me as a virtual signaler, right? All that, like
But you're not a virtual signaler when it comes to BTC Pay.
Okay. So I want to spend more time on GitHub. I want to nurture new contributors. We want to do more stuff for Bitcoin is money, again, technology. How do we do that, Stephan? And how personally can Uncle do that?
To be honest, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, right? I mean, we're all out here trying to shout about Bitcoin and BTC Pay in whatever way we can. I don't really know. I don't think I'm the right person to ask. But yeah, I mean, of course, I think these integrations are one example of like, especially in the, people talk about agentic payments, right? And maybe for now, that's like a bit of a meme. It's not quite reality, but I think it will eventually become the thing. And so then it's like, how can we make sure the stuff works with like AIs when people want to code up whatever SDKs that quickly, vibe code things or integrate Bitcoin payment support into things, so that you can do it with your BTC Pay. That's probably an example.
See, Pavlenex, what is the name of the AI thing that you use? I keep forgetting the one from it's hosted. Yeah, but the thing is, NVK also brought up this online that BTCPay Server should be written in TypeScript, so it's easier to use. But no, I agree that we would. And we're working on that to make it easy for agent to spin up a BTCPay server instance and then use it for payments. So
yeah, I mean, or like if it can kind of hook into people's already existing, like the other systems that they might have, whether it's like their inventory system or these other things, like maybe that's a direction things are going to go. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
speculating. I don't know.
Well, let us then stop speculating.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephan.
Thank you.
Please,
So yeah, thanks you for coming to BTCPay. It's sad to not be with you. It was a schedule issue, but hopefully next year I will be there. And actually, for today, I wanted to talk about a subject. Actually, I didn't even talk with the team at all. Like it's more like I would say more like a brainstorm, and the fact that in this room there is a few plugin devs. And BTCPay contributor was a good occasion to launch the discussion about that. So don't be too afraid of the next Rockstar. Everything will be fine.
we're trembling, so but we believe in you, Emperor.
So yeah, just I will start by talking about again, say the trouble that all open source software go through. And every open source project starts by a stage where I would say the low wolf stage, where basically there is only like 1% of the project. It's a personal vision of all things sucks, like strong opinion about how to do things. And in general, you know, it's always a tag where it's very easy to make new feature, you know, like if you code story, feature velocity is very high. You can unleash your AI agent to do all of the stuff for you. Like it's kind of the most exciting part. It's when like the developer go to bed at 5 a.m. in the morning. You always still felt like this. Developers know what I mean. And it's where like you can see if you check the comics on GitHub, what you will see is that comic stage that looks like a fixed shit or still broken. Pink snow, you know, kind of commits. And it's when the motivation is very high, progress is fast, exciting, they control. And then very quickly or not, you end up in the second stage, and the BTCPay server has been the same. Like there is two ways it can go. It's either the developer starts to get bored, and then the project is kind of in the zombie state, not alive, not dead, and then be like, you can mention it on your CV or something like this, but like, it ends there. Or like if you did something interesting, like you have your first user. So I will call him Mike. I don't know if the Mike I'm thinking about is in those restaurants, but he will recognize himself. So we start demanding feature, like complaints about bugs and ask questions. It's like kind of where like the first stage of open source projects starts. And then you enter the champion stage, or I would say the max stage. So the project is slowing not a little bit because the focus now is kind of your first user and is your best ally because he knows the best in general more than you do. And he cares about the project. And if you're lucky, he even thinks that you are the one making a service for him. So I actually, like the first user, I believe is way more important to me than I am to them. And so the code at this stage is slowed down a little bit. Like part of the code is still producing code, and but the first user kind of slowly intrudes in the feedback loop. You know what I mean? Like you need to kind of stabilize the swap that you did in the first stage because they start complaining about it. So you need to slow down how it's going. You notice like problems that you didn't know existed. You notice like a gap in what is needed for his business or not. And overall, like the reason is still fast, you know, there is a feedback loop. The feedback loop from the bug report to the deployment sometimes takes less than an hour. Super fast. And if you keep Mike happy, at one point you get like kind of a more user coming into your projects. And you start what I call the second phase, the third stage. So actually, I forgot to change my jobbing, but anyway, we're not shown that. So it's the second stage, And the third stage that you will see here, for example, so it's kind of the community stage. I would call it the conflict stage as well, because like you are starting to make the more users start coming, because Mike is happy, Mike talk about you, and so it beats your user. And the new users are kind of like Mike, you know, they are not kind of the same version tag, and like they have always some.
Nicolas,
Yeah.
can I interrupt? What the hell is this? What it cooks? Where is Rockstar here? Where is Rockstar? No, where is Pavlenex?
No, I tell you, you are inside BTC the server.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, let's get it down.
Bad things what you will see what's going on.
Oh my God, he has me set up. No, people are laughing here. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so I don't know. Yeah, so the users are kind of different from Mike. You know, they don't want a green team. Maybe they want a red. They don't want checkouts to be English. They want a Chinese simplified checkout page. You know, it has small difference like this. And the challenge now is that you still need to keep Mike happy because the team is ready for it. You need to not inherit his happiness, but you still need to add some notes inside your software. You know, like you need to make it possible to change the language, to change the team, and you need to make the equation. So like Mike is still beautifully unaware of what you're doing. So and it's very difficult time because if you get something, if you write something, then you have lots of unhappy users that are kind of going into the chat. So basically, your project is kind of slower, and you can use AI, but AI start becoming a bit harder to use because there is some kind of context that is built inside the history of the project that is actually the mind of the people that are working on the project every day. So in your mind, Rockstar, in my mind as well. Cooks as well, and there is a post about why Signature as there was some users are asking like all kind of conversation that we got around a beer in Prague, for example, with the real users. So yeah, it comes. The challenge become really to start materializing the context into words, and this context, like I said, it comes from various sources, and the feature velocity is kind of dropping like a rock because like now the information kind of spread in different mind, and I think more dev like don't really solve the issue because it's like if you unleash AI on those issues, like you get a lot of code down, it breaks things, and it's not their fault because like they're just missing the context of the project, the kind of information that is in your head, and the experience of people that are there. So taking time to review this code takes as much time as booked myself and reviewing AI's codes, but there is a big advantage, I believe, to human and to our contributor, is that contributors learn over time. When the AI, when you start from a new prompt, it starts basically from zero, and they become better and better as time goes on. So this is why dear contributors are like, don't be just, when you make a PR, don't be just a GitHub AI interface during the review. So the point of the PR is really to share the context. The code is the context. The review is the context. And it's more of a discussion between me and you trying to exchange information about what's going on. It's not like query about code and query about getting a feature out. It's really about spreading information. So yeah, it's like you see the intent and everything. Really, a pull request is like a context that is shared and materialized. The code is as effective as I believe as a human text. It's really where like the nebulous neuron cloud in the mind could become later on the screen basically. So unless it's pure formality, don't shrug with a prompt to AI which address Nicolas' suggestions. Just to move to the next issue, there is no KPI on the number of issues that you close. You are more than a prompt because you can learn the context of the project. You can't just outsource this to the AI. So, but eventually the context becomes too much. Developers get frustrated about progress because inevitably some of these things happen. Like developers start instructing you, or developers or users start instructing you on social media because they are too elitist. Or some developers that forgive off your project because they want you to go faster and doing their own things. Or some developers start building on top of your project. And this is the best thing that needs to be done, basically. And needless to say, like a kind of release valve is needed. And this when you start to need both a comprehensive API and plugins. And those are not really technical solutions, those are more management solution. So this goes to the next stage that I think that BTCPay Server is currently in. If I show it here, maybe you can see. So, like the next stage is like the decentralization stage or the ecosystem stage, I would say. And Cooks didn't help me enough to fork or insult me. So it's when he decided to build the plugin system, as you know, to make it more free and to build on top of BTCPay Server. And we also at this time improved the API for the same reason. So it's a way to push innovation outside of the main project. So context to be shared, and the developer is free again. And when you start a plugin, you start from stage one again. You know, you're the old wolf, life is fast and exciting again. Things move. You can unleash AI. And this is you go through the same steps as what I'm talking about, basically. So the plugin developer, I think, is the best marketing guy because he can reach pocket of users that are outside of our focus, and it's also a great entrepreneur because he can ship some new feature and get a subset of interested users, and we can kind of identify needed features or and they can test solution in product with limited impact on existing users. So they're plugin developer kind of like a scout running ahead of the army in a way. And as maintainer of the core project, I will do those developers, but please forgive me for there is some occasional breaking change. Some decisions we took long ago sometimes need to be revisited because we learn new contexts since the inceptions. And plugin devs are as important to me as Mike. Plugin devs are users as much as our merchants or ideas. And then with BTCPay Server, we are really at this stage, I believe. We developed the plugin builder websites, which allows the discovery and distribution of plugin. But then we end up, as we go, we have the new problem that's coming. You know, it's never over. And now the problem is, how do we vet plugins? Like, should we even vet plugins? Like, what if we distribute a malicious plugin? And new users become kind of confused into which plugins to use and become conflicted about the vision of the project because there is so many things. And we can start Pavlenex complaining about how the docs is covering too much things and it gets hard to navigate. So we kind of missing something that was in the first stage of the project, which is a kind of opinionated visions that we started. And that is kind of getting very much missed. So I think the next stage of BTCPay Server, and I'm saying maybe, because I think it's a natural evolution of open source projects. I will call that the distribution stage. So if I get here, wait, let's see here. Basically it looks like this. I will go a bit more inside the detail, but so this is not really only BTCPay Server. Like open source projects become like this, and I can wish you take example of one of the most successful open source project that exists. That is Linux, and because it's still surviving and it's still great and it's getting better over time. So we can see how did they handle those same problems. And you can see that first, Linux called up plugins, but it has APIs, it does package, it does ads, it does destroy and kernel modules, and I think they are part of the solution that might come soon. So, but really, what is Linux? And there is many definitions of Linux. The most restrictive one, I think, is that Linux is a OS kernel, but a broader one is that Linux is kind of an ecosystem. This is the definition that I will use in this talk. And it looks like this. If I go here, I hope you can read it again. I'm gonna make it bigger like this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah,
We can see it, yeah.
An important observation is that in Linux, you don't just install labels. Like what the user installs is actually what we call a distro. And the distro has several components. Like he has some pre-install packages, he has some patch Linux kernel, he has a package repository, and it has an original software center of App Center. And it's the distro is kind of what is bringing back the vision and the focus to their users. It's kind of also like making the universe of, it kind of restraining the universe of possibility into one set that's kind of very easy to sell to the target audience. So each parts are kind of maintained by different teams. There is a Linux kernel developers that are focused on low-level protocol and malware. There is a distro developers that kind of selects the correct set of package that take care of the branding, the documentation. Decide what is the default, what is optional. And the upstream developers create us. Package maintainer also exists. They are preparing an app for easy deployments on the distro, and there is also the concept of software center where that are focused on providing a more user-friendly, safe discovery experience of package. So I think I have a small, yeah, it is all distro in the distro. You see, like your upstream maintainer, package maintainer, distro maintainer, and I think that's in a BTCPay server, we can kind of morph to a similar order. And you notice that all these individual, they are kind of separate team, and they all serve their own self-interest and collaborate in a very efficient manner. And let's see if we try to inspire ourselves about this, how does BTCPay server will look like. And I think the transformation isn't complete, but you can see that BTCPay server naturally is going in these directions. And so what will it will look like? Like BTCPay server kernel developer will give low-level primitive, like abstracting payment processor context, such as invoice and payments. And acting with kernel, like the BTCPay kernel will have a bunch of like to disable or enable some kind of guilty components. So for example, like some people don't want payment requests. Someone don't want full payments. They should have some kind of flags to disable this during go time. And the distro will just like take this kernel, apply some patch to, like for example, customizes the default binding, package the plugins, and decide whether those plugins should be pre-installed or optionally installed. And basically, the plugin that we show to users will be vetted by the distro maintainers. And like any distro, everybody can, like any distro, everybody with a BTCPay server can install directly from the plugin developers package directly by going to their GitHub. But the interesting thing is that if there is this concept of distro, then in a distro update or BTCPay update, then you can, like, the distro developers can start bundling update plugin. So it prevents some kind of friction that we have right now, where somebody bump their BTCPay server version and somebody crash. Instead, at the same time that there is an update of the BTCPay server, the distro developer would update the package that they delivered to. And it's kind of separating the BTCPay server instead of the user from the plugin developers, because we want to avoid that the plugin developers start pushing automatic updates to their users. So it means that the responsibility of not pushing malicious package are now inside the distro maintainer abilities, I would say. So what will it take to do this? So yeah, that I said, distro updates, it will update from repo and the BTCPay kernel basically. And what it will take to do this? So our plugin builder right now will need to be split into two different projects. So our plugin right now, really a plugin builder is two things at once. It's a plugin repository and a plugin stores. And actually, it kind of looks like a bit user repository of Arc. If some people are using Arc. And like the plugin developer can push directly on there. So it can be more set than this, basically. So it really needs to be first two projects, the plugin repository and the plugin stores. So the plugin store will be really like the software center, the user interface that recommend plugins or like that, allow to one-click deployments. And the repository will be more user interface, for example, it's all the name of the plugin and it's all the server basically. It's kind of separate those two projects into one user interface, one plugin logic. And BTCPay Server, we need to have some runtime constraint to disable support a feature that are to be isolated into plugins. And our current user will need to be migrating to a distro that we will call, for example, BTCPay Server Original. And there's some kind of idea of that we have. So a long time ago, there was a distro that was, for example, like contain. So in a like community had a for BTCPay Server. So this will be kind of example. There cannot be maybe, for example, a BTCPay Server for ambassador, like that's optimized for taking care of a data plugin that optimize the setup to take care of a wide range of users on the server. There can be a BTCPay Server Personal where it's really focused into on the right feature of BTCPay Server if you are just using it for yourself, for example. And the stroke just would be able to completely hide the BTCPay brand completely, for example, by using on their own. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. And I think this is not the direction of the short term, and it's not I think we should be careful to not outgrow ourselves. This is also not our danger. But as we grow up, we kind of see some pain points appear with the growth. And let's keep in mind that we are not alone on that. And we should just lift our head and see what works for other projects on open source who grew in the same environments. So yeah, that's all I was to say. Thank you.
Man, where do you find energy to do that? And how do you do it? Tell us.
I don't know, man. It helps having people who are passionate about what you do and to share that. I'm not the only person that works in the project, obviously. There's a very, very, very small team of people that work with me, and they are equally dedicated. Particularly the person that I started with, Lutando. I mean, I guess if something like Bitcoin does change your life, then you're kind of committed to the project long term. If it has a significant impact in your life, I mean, Bitcoin saved my business. My wife and I have a tourism business, and if it wasn't for Bitcoin, sanctions would have killed our business in 2015. So, when you go through an experience like that, then you just have this, I don't know, just this next level commitment to see the project succeed because it had this impact on your life, at least.
When it comes to circular economies, Giacomo, which ones are the ones that you would highlight and showcase to Bitcoiners?
First of
First of all, I have to take the honest but slightly contrarian stand. I'm not really fond of the term circular economy. It comes from a weird socialist environmentalist theory, which is against thermodynamics. And also it stresses the use of Bitcoin as a brick and mortar, face-to-face local payment, which I think is great for marketing of Bitcoin, but it's always going to be a very hard use case to push because, of course, in face-to-face wet mixed space, you always send cash, and in most places. So it's cool when you can use Bitcoin instead. It can have some kind of rationale, like if you are Berlin, just to mention one case in El Salvador, you can have rich Bitcoiners coming there twice a year to spend. That can create an actual, basically, Bitcoin tourism in a very low income zone that may change the local economy, even if it's seasonal and is not contiguous. But that said, I think that Bitcoin is optimized for e-commerce and or services that are in person but get paid from distance. So in your case, international sanctions Bitcoin was not replacing somebody coming to you with cash. It was replacing somebody paying from distance to you and then coming in. So I think we have to be mindful that when we promote the face-to-face local brick-and-mortar business, that's a great Bitcoin promotion, but it's always be a little bit second as a natural use case to the online side. Let's say simple economies are let's call it Bitcoin only economies where you can receive Bitcoin and spend Bitcoin to your employees, and your employees can spend Bitcoin to other goods and services. They're specifically great for privacy because you don't get cash in and cash out to choke points where you can have privacy problems. And I'm particularly fond of a few examples. One is the first that we've seen, which was in Italy, Rovereto, the Bitcoin Valley in Trentino. And it was the first time that I've seen. By then, I had seen many cases of shops accepting Bitcoin. But that was the first time in 2014-15 where I've seen a shop accepting Bitcoin. An employee, the waiter, paid exclusively in Bitcoin, very hardcore choice in 2014. And then this employee spending money on another, it was an Apple store in Trentino, accepting Bitcoin because the franchising allowed them to do it. So I've seen really, it was not a complete circle, but like at least an arch economy. and it was cool, and it was particularly interesting from the point of view of volatility, because the shop owner was not really, was understanding that the client, so the shop owner usually is, I accept Bitcoin, but if I keep Bitcoin, maybe my providers, my waiters, my employees, they will not want it. So it will be on me the burden of changing. And instead, having employees accepting Bitcoin directly made it very relaxing for the merchant to accept it, because I get this, and my guys, they also want this, and so on. So that's also some kind of relief of the burden of exchanging with fiat. But we have to be realistic. For example, well, I think you can say something about that, but in Lugano, we have a very good circular, but it's not circular at all.
Okay, Giacomo, let's help. You're good at naming things. How are you going to name this? Arch economy?
Let's say, no fiat, I don't have a catchy name, says skipping fiat, at least for a while. Let's try, it's a fiat skipping. If there is any fiat skipping in any place,
Fiat-less economy.
but it's not that eventually some fiat, I mean, most of the wealth is in fiat. It's realistic to expect that fiat, until it collapses completely, until the US dollar hyperinflates and we have a real collapse, fiat will be around. So we need as much fiat skipping as possible, because fiat exchange is a privacy choke point and it's also a friction in economic terms. So fiat skipping concentration is great.
No, a beer. Yeah, that's it.
So,
Beer.
okay. So, Giacomo is good at many things, not at naming. Is a fucking terrible name. It's not inspiring at all. We also want people to be inspired, and I think circular economy works pretty well because it just like it seems something very like woke, but it is not. So also it's a good like Trojan horse for other people. We can seem like good environmentalism people while we are very different from that. So I will keep it that name, Giacomo.
Okay. Circular economy, everyone who is for circular economies, everyone Okay, Giacomo, your circular economies is a good term, right?
I surrender.
Oh,
As always with naming, Giacomo, in the end, I always win on that. At least it's the only argument I win with Giacomo.
okay. Now let's hear about Lugano, where you also had one beer. You had a great, what was it, like challenge? You play with Bitcoin.
I think Lugano is a weird case because it's not grassroots, but it's top-down. It comes from the Plan B initiative, so it's just Tether and the town council and Full Venture coming together and creating these opportunities for Lugano to be a Bitcoin city. So in a way, it has been like guided, not in a way, it has been guided and helped from the top. Also because, you know, Swiss people, they definitely don't need Bitcoin that much. So it was an occasion for the city to have more tourism, to show itself like an innovation city. And we are very lucky because we have the mayor and the town council really supporting Bitcoin. They are Bitcoiners, they love Bitcoin. And of course, it's great for Lugano to see all these people coming there. Last year, when the Lugano Plan B event, it was like the most impactful event in the history of Lugano. 3,000 people coming there. It was something unexpected like this, and so everybody is kind of happy about Bitcoin because like shops are thriving, fiat economy is thriving too, and there is no friction. So but if you go around Lugano, you can see like more than 300 shops and services accepting Bitcoin. So the symbol, the Bitcoin symbol, is present everywhere. And even if sometimes, well, most of the times we don't need Bitcoin, well, I was one of the few that really needed Bitcoin in Lugano. So last year, actually, it was exactly 1 year ago, thanks to my beautiful fiat bank, Revolut, I got kicked off. My bank account was frozen. Yeah, because somebody really helped me like with that, but it's okay.
Robosats.
Exactly. He used Robosats and he decided to send the amount to my bank account. So I received this as, actually it was like 2,000 euros, not a big account, but probably.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, yeah, he could have like used it even more at that point, but they frozen my bank account. They were kind of stupid because I had the time to send Giacomo back the money, but they frozen my money, the rest of my money on my bank account. And since I moved quite recently to Switzerland, I didn't have my Swiss bank account ready. So I've been like unbanked from the fiat system for 2 months, and luckily I was in Lugano. So I decided, well, let's start experimenting with this circular economy if it works. So I decided to survive in Bitcoin only for 11 days. And it turned out like a successful experiment. Like 90% of the things that I wanted, I could have it with Bitcoin, mostly through the circuit from the town council. So going to shop like that. With other tools, of course, I use Vexel. I use the community sometimes, people from the community helping me in converting my Bitcoin. I use Bitrefill to buy things online. So, but in the end, 90% of the things I needed during those, I decided to move the 10% after the experiment, so I survived. It was really nice to see how is it possible to live in Bitcoin only for 11 days, and probably for a year and even more in Lugano. But I also learned the power of community. Without other tools and without the community, without Bitcoiners, even a city like Lugano is not enough. It's not enough.
If I can interject, this is a general panel, but there is a very specific BTCPay Server point there. So spending Bitcoin in Lugano, living off Bitcoin only in Lugano in 2022 was possible because we had these merchants pushed by the city, but it was practically very hard because the payment system did suck a bit. So it was in 2022, having Lightning enabled in 300 shops was pioneeristic, was great. but it was hacking. There was a Bitfinex Pay terminal connected to this proprietary point of sales by a company acquired from Roger Ver. So think about it. So it was, what could go wrong? So the payments experience was unique in 2022, but by 2025, you started to really be suboptimal. And we were coming back from El Salvador. In El Salvador, like on the beach, barely any internet, you pay up down. In Lugano, yeah, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Let's hope that this is not lost. Many people lost money here. So we had to fix it. So Marco Argentieri, the CEO of our clubs, fixed it by teaching the Roger Ver people how to install BTCPay Server. That's a true story. So now, if you go to Lugano and you pay, on your wallet you will see instant payment because the BTCPay Server plus the ARC plugin is working very well. Then the proof of the point of sale will still keep you waiting 6 seconds just to show. But that's okay. We'll fix that next October.
Well, my defense, I've done my experiment before the implementation of BTCPay Server. What should it was implemented in September. So every single time I was just like, oh, but everything worked, but it was very tough. Now the experience is so good, you make everything so easy. Come on.
Thank you both, because again, this hasn't even been featured, highlighted, and maybe we can figure it out after BTC Payday to bring it more to life. Again, you and me also, Herman, talked about how by using BTCPay Server, you have come up with more ideas, and now you're building technology after using FOSS, not only BTCPay Server, but elements. You're now building technology. I encouraged you to build plugins. I hope Nicolas today encouraged you to maybe think about BTCPay Server, Bitcoin, and Kasi distribution. But I don't know, can you tell us more about what you're building and direction in which you're going?
Yes, sure, man. Just one thing quickly on the name. I think people get hung up on the name, but it's quite meaningless, really. There's been an explosion of grassroots circular economy projects, and I put that in air quotes because I've looked at a lot of projects across Africa, and I'm not quite sure there is such a thing as a circular economy, because all the projects that we've looked at, and I'm only speaking for sub-Saharan Africa, there's always something else underneath the project. And so in our case, there's a community organization that predates the circular economy project, and in all the other projects that have become successful over the last years, there's something else underneath it. There's a sports club, there's a community organization, there's a school, there's a church, there's something. And the Bitcoin circular economy part of it is just like a little layer on top of that. But really, they're all entirely different because the thing that's underneath it is entirely different. So the name is just a way to describe what we're trying to do, which is to circulate sats. I mean, it's not entirely circular, obviously, so it's a bit of a misnomer. Really, the name is stuck, and so we're going to go with it. And I'm going to come up with a name, so I'm not going to try and fire.
Especially now, I'm ready to give up.
But as far as Uncle's question, yeah, we've been using BTCPay Server for a slightly different use case. Because we run these after-school programs, we've been using the bulk card plugin extensively, and the idea has always been, beginning in 2032, we started rewarding some of the kids in our after-school programs for good attendance, good performance, and we'd give them small amounts of sats. And we've tried various different setups. We used Anonymous at one point, and then the bulk card plugin worked really well. And we're now at a point where we're building on top of that, because it's been quite tricky to put all these different pieces together to try and come up with an attendance system where, you know, as a typical attendance tracker where you go to school, the teacher would mark present, absent, whatever, and over a long period of time, you want to look at it. You want to look at the attendance of children and reward them for better attendance. And so we're trying to build something on top of BTCPay Server that automates the entire thing.
Yeah, and this is where, again, I would really encourage you to think in terms of BTCPay Server not as a technology, but community. because what you're building is amazing. You know, like you probably, there must be someone, if not physically here in the audience, but the wider BTCPay Server community that could benefit from attendance plugin, right? Like we could even magic come to BTC Payday and then we get some sats, right? You like the idea. So not only that, but me as the technical person, BTCPay Server community, what you built, maybe let's set up a call and I can review what was being done. But
I mean, anyone that runs a school, or anyone that runs a sports club for kids, or like a family value that for sure.
and this is where what I brought up in introductions, like, hey, you do play like that, we will, you know, get our users moved into that system. So I love that approach, and this is where it's not only about plugins, but it's about other subsystems of BTCPay Server that we are building, like translations that allow people, in my view, you need to be technical to contribute. Most people are like, oh, I'm not technical, how can I be a contributor? But systems like translations then allow anyone to be a contributor on project like BTCPay Server. And this is where, Giacomo, I would ask you, as someone that has been instrumental in playing the network efforts and what you have done, like, besides translations, what other entry points are good for new contributors? And like, what is it that we at BTCPay, again, can do more to facilitate contributions at B?
One of these things would be testing and reporting. That's something that seems easy in theory. Like we have users, they don't have to know how the thing works, but they know if it works for them or not. And if it doesn't, have it fails, they should be able to easily report how and where. So that's something that is so trivial that is never facilitated in a very, very good way in any project that I know of. If you install BTCPay Server like many other things and it fails somehow, somewhere, it's not super trivial for the non-technical user and how to contribute the reproduced files and contribute properly. So I think that goes both ways. On one side, users are trained to think that they are, users are really spoiled because in the fiats, in the big tech fiat model, they are the product. So they are fed free software, very easy to use in exchange for total surveillance and some kind of commercial benefit from the data. So there is this idea, they take it for granted, they're just entitled, okay, the software must work, it must be free, and they are a product. With free software, which is free open source software, which is privacy conscious, there is no database business model, so they expect the same level of services for free. And if something breaks, something doesn't work, they're not very used to report, help, contribute. So I think that the first thing that we should not only facilitate, but also educate users to do is just to spend, when something breaks, spend some time in reporting. And of course, that can be had by the developers on being a little bit more tolerant. Sometimes I've seen, not in BTCPay Server, and I've seen developers say, okay, the user has a problem, they should just do a pull request. And of course, the pull request means that they have to fork the project and do the local change and then pull request. I mean, sure, but I mean, there's division of labor in the economy, and not everybody is expected to fork GitHub repos. And so that's one. The second trivial one would be documentation. A non-technical user is especially is put in a especially good position to write good documentation for non-technical users. The technical users and developers, they don't know what other users don't know. They tend to assume more things, and so retard people are better at creating retard tutorials. And it's something that we should encourage. And of course, that may need a review by some non-retarded people, but I think it's good that we create a culture of reporting bugs and testing a lot, and also creating tutorials, which is just how did you do, how did you something like a user journal to some degree. They have it to basically journal your use of the software, what works, what doesn't, what can be reproduced, and then developers can step in by fixing some bugs, shortcutting some UX bottlenecks, or even stepping in to correct a suboptimal usage.
No, I actually like that because it goes a long way towards what I'm already doing with being Bitcoin uncle and uncling. Seeing, yeah, hey, Herman, can I, join in and just review for an hour what you're doing? And yeah, that may be solution, Giacomo. When you started talking, it's some, yeah, no, it's more sounded like retard maxi, but I'm glad, like uncling, but let's use that term. Maybe. And we're speaking circular economy still one. So Giacomo, from now on, you're using circular economies exclusively.
Stop it, he's already dead.
Okay. Well, that's been for this panel. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. One more round of applause for Alex Lee from Li HRF.
Hi, my name is Alex Lee. I am the Bitcoin Development Lead at the Human Rights Foundation. The Human Rights Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit based in New York City, America. Now, you might ask yourself, what does Bitcoin have to do with human rights, right? Like, why would the Human Rights Foundation support Bitcoin development? Why would the Human Rights Foundation support BTCPay Server Foundation? And it's always nice to take a step back, right? Because we love number go up. Number go up is important. We wouldn't all be here. We wouldn't have this amazing conference with all these sponsors if Bitcoin was $0 or if the price didn't go up over time. But what really matters for most people around the world is not just number go up, but freedom go up, right? Because if freedom's not going up, if we're not more free, if we end up just becoming slaves of the fiat system, we're fucked, right? It doesn't matter if we have a lot of money in our bank account, if we walk outside and criticize the government, we get thrown in a gulag, we can't even live our lives freely. HRF has supported BTCPay Foundation since around 2022. We've given over $400,000 to support BTCPay Server Foundation. We've accepted Bitcoin donations at the Human Rights Foundation using BTCPay Server since about June 2020. So we love BTCPay Server. Right now, over 72% of the world lives under authoritarian regimes, right? That's over 5.7 billion people. That means they don't have free money, they don't have free speech, they don't have freedom of conscience, and every single day they might get thrown in a gulag just for criticizing a politician or writing something or calling a politician fat, right? Even supposedly free countries like the neighboring countries around here have been suffering a lot from free speech, but it's a lot worse in other authoritarian regimes. Trust me, I can tell you that, right? Like, as bad as Germany is, as bad as many of the free countries are, as bad as the UK is, as bad as America is, it's a lot worse in China, I can tell you that. And I wanted to come here just to encourage people, right? Like, what can I do today or what can I do tomorrow to make the world a little bit more free in my day-to-day actions, right? Maybe that's supporting a local cause that you're really involved in. Maybe that's donating an hour of your time, 10 hours of your time, 100 hours of your time to work on projects like BTCPay Server, work on Bitcoin Core, work on Lightning Wallet, work on translations, work increasing Bitcoin adoption in your local community. Maybe that's onboarding a merchant to use BTCPay Server, onboarding a merchant to using Bitcoin and Lightning in your local community. So even if you can't contribute to the Human Rights Foundation monetarily, you can also contribute with your time. So we have a QR code that'll be put up real quick. It's the link to the Human Rights Foundation's Bitcoin Development Fund. You can apply for a grant to work on free open source projects at the Human Rights Foundation. You can apply for grants to work on education and translation, Bitcoin Core, Lightning development, etc. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I'll be around. So apply for a grant. If you have any questions, chat with me. I'll be around. Thank you so much, and thank you to the
Thank you, Alex. So I started selling Bitcoin on local Bitcoins, and it was really fun. There was some interesting experiences there. My last trade on local Bitcoins, I almost got kidnapped, so I stopped doing that. New Year's Eve in 2013, I broke my phone. I was really drunk, and I was at a party, and I fixed the phone a month later, and I thought, oh, let me just send the Bitcoin to Mt. Gox. It'll be safe. And a month later, it was not safe. I lost my Bitcoin. So a couple months after that, I decided that it's time to make a company to automate the distribution of Bitcoin through Bitcoin ATMs, and that was in April of 2014. So let's talk about Unbank, right? So we bought the domain from a failed bank. I really was upset with banks at the time. I'd run through like 20 accounts or so that they've closed. I can't get loans from any of those banks. So all the major banks in the US are basically blacklisted me. So the good thing about the US though is there's tens of thousands of banks. So a lot of community banks will support me. But the large banks are no good for me. So we made a product that allows you to purchase and sell Bitcoin with cash at retail locations like Walmart and CVS. We focus primarily on cash just because it's, even though it is fiat, it's the best method, in my opinion, to control your own funds and have that a reduction of counterparty risk. So that's why we primarily focus on the cash-based economy, although it can be very, very difficult. So BTC Pay, it enables us to generate invoices for people that want to cash out their Bitcoin. It also enables us to send Bitcoin to customers that purchase with cash. There's a lot of great edge cases that are documented in statuses that we utilize, and it's very well thought out, right? So there's underpaid invoices with on-chain. There's underpaid expired. A lot of people will pay an invoice after it's expired. There's overpaid expired. There's a whole bunch of statuses, and it's really well documented. You can put attributes when generating an invoice so you can track your orders to your backend, right? And there's great webhooks. So some of the cool things we've actually made with this that BTC Pay doesn't natively support are underpaid invoices. Now their implementation is based off of like a percentage, which works sort of, but we wanted to do it based off of like a specific dollar amount. So if a user underpays an invoice by $1, we'll mark it as settled with the API, which is really cool. Also, if you underpay an invoice, we'll generate a second invoice that is Lightning. So when underpaying an on-chain, you can always finish it off if it's a very small amount in Lightning, which is really cool. This is our cash at the register product that I talked about previously. We don't have a wallet in the app. We don't custody funds. We allow you to use whatever wallet you want to use. There's tons of them. I've seen hundreds of wallets throughout the years, right? So there's always going to be a better wallet, and I don't think that we're in a position to make the best wallet. So I'll allow all of our customers to input their own address, Lightning address, Bolt 11, and the Bitcoin gets sent directly to the wallet. So we're not custodying funds, or we are, but slightly, only for a very small amount of time. So that's really cool. And obviously we have the cash out, so that's with the invoice generation that we utilize on the Greenfield API. That's really, really cool, and those edge cases are documented. The most important product to me is the cash at the ATM. So at 23,000 ATMs at CVS, Walgreens in the US, you can input an 8-digit code after you pay an invoice, and cash spits out of the machine. It's a lot of fun. And why cash? Well, I've had a terrible experience with banks, so I love cash. I don't like when I log into a bank account, although it hasn't happened in a long time, and it says my funds are restricted. It's great. There's no chargebacks, right? Just like Bitcoin. It's available everywhere just because of our network. So we have 850 of our own locations as well as third-party locations. It's really fast, and it reaches people that might not have a bank account or are underbanked, which incredibly so in the US is still an issue. So in the last 12 months, our volume has decreased drastically, but we're still doing sort of good numbers. But this is all with BTC Pay, so really all thanks to this great technology. And hopefully we can increase the numbers to allow our users to buy and sell more. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a 30 to 40% reduction, but hopefully we can get the numbers back up. That's probably price. Price has something to do with it, a lot of psychological barriers, but also regulations. So right now, self-custody in the US is being attacked by the AARP lobbyists. So AARP is an old person organization in the US. And unfortunately, self-custody is under attack because old people are getting scammed, and the government wants the ability to freeze accounts, right? So it's the whole point of Bitcoin is not to allow that. And unfortunately, those lobbyists are very powerful, they're very well funded, and they're doing it successfully in a couple states. Such as Tennessee, Indiana, and Minnesota. So that's the thing. So what I'd like to see a lot more non-custodial exchanges, not just wallets that offer third-party on and off ramps. Not a really big fan of those, but there's some excellent wallets that implement technology that allow people to hold their Bitcoin and send it in very unique ways. But then they use on and off ramps that are kind of shit. So there's a little bit of trade-off, right? It's really easy to expand and scale with third-party rails. You're not really utilizing your own funds, but you have less control, right? You want to offer the best experience possible. A limitation with that is you have to have your own liquidity, so it's a little bit costly, but if you're a startup, maybe the third-party off-ramps and on-ramps are the best way. I'd like to see more companies funding BTC Pay. I think it's a great project. It enables a lot of freedom, and it's super, super good. Also, I'd like to see a BTC Pay merch store. Right now, I can't find a shirt that's next size.
I'm really glad today that we have the opportunity to present our integration with BTCPay Server, our BTCPay Server plugin coming to the App Store. So continue. Just a quick primer on what the ARC protocol is, and the vision of what we're building is to be the invisible infrastructure for Lightning payments and solve the inbound liquidity problem. Rockstar prompted me to give a bit of an intro to you about that. We want to abstract away Lightning channel management from application developers and merchants alike. The ARC protocol follows a client-server model, and we're here today with ARC, which is the ARC implementation made by Second. So part of our vision of Arc involves a Arc to Lightning gateway that is connected directly with the Arc server, so we are not using an external swap provider. And then users, once they receive their inbound Lightning payments, they can offboard directly to on-chain. So merchant opens up a store, they start receiving inbound Lightning payments, they hold their VTXOs, which is their virtual UTXOs, and then they make an on-chain offboard so they can withdraw their funds directly to a regular Bitcoin wallet. On this slide, I have a dissection of our BTCPay Server Arc tech stack. So we have 5 layers going on here, and we are right there in the middle with our middleware, which is the BTCPay Arc plugin. Just to show you that layers 1 and 2, you have the web browser, you have BTCPay Core, this is the main BTCPay Server software. The plugin sits in the middle and acts as a bridge between what BTCPay is already doing and the Bark protocol itself. You'll notice that down at level 5 is the storage runs where on the local disk of wherever the BTCPay instance is. There's an SQLite.db file, and in that database, that is where your VTXOs are stored. So you're receiving inbound Lightning payments, and then you can look and inspect directly on the hardware. Here is where my money lives. These are my virtual UTXOs, which I can broadcast directly as on-chain transactions, and you can inspect them on your local computer. Here's another diagram of the same model, but now I'm showing how you have this vertical line on the right, that's your payment stack, and then the Arc client is connected to the Arc server, which is the captain here. The captain is the coordinator. All of the cooperative actions that happen in the Arc are co-facilitated by the captain, and the captain is connected directly to a Lightning node. And once again, the BTCPay Store plugin is a very nice middleware sitting right in the middle. I'm going to give you a stop motion walkthrough now of what happens when an inbound Lightning payment happens. I use these dotted lines in the diagram to make it very clear what the merchant is hosting themselves, if they're doing a self-hosted instance or a hosted instance, and what aspects of the infrastructure are hosted by the Arc server itself. So on the left, the Lightning node and the Arc server are managed by the Arc server. The merchant doesn't have to worry about running any of that infrastructure on their own. To begin at step 1, the BTCPay Store creates an inbound payment request, and it requests a Bolt 11 invoice from the Arc server. It flows through the plugin to the client. The Bark client communicates to the Arc server, and the Arc server returns the Bolt 11 that flows up, back through our plugin, through the BTCPay Server instance, up to the web browser where it's served to the customer. The customer makes a payment, so they scan the QR code, they make that Lightning payment, and in this example, you have the 500 sats of Lightning. They go to the Lightning node of the Arc server. That money flows through the Lightning node, through the server, to the Bark client, where it is stored on disk in the SQLite.db file as a VTXO of 500 sats. And it's settling this HTLC atomically to credit the wallet, and that VTXO is written to a disk. The Bark plugin pulls BarkD, the Bark daemon, and you get this really nice green check mark in the UI to show, yeah, this invoice, it really has been paid and the checkout process is complete. And then the merchant at this point, he can withdraw the funds from his local VTXOs either with Lightning into a different wallet, or he could offboard the Arc to return that money back to on-chain. So without further ado, we're going to get right into a very nice demonstration live here that Luca's much betraying.
Thank you, Matthew. So right now we have our BTCPay plugin, and we built it on GitLab. And for that, we had to query the BTCPay team to change a little bit how they will deploy the plugin, right? And so I'd like to give a special thanks to ThgO here, because now people can build the plugins on GitLab, and they can also allow them to be on the store. Right now, we haven't built it and published it on the store, so people who want to do it like this today will need to come into our GitLab repo, clone it, and build it themselves. But this should be online in the next few days. And after the person does clone the repo and build the plugin or goes on the store, the person like needs to go to the BTCPay server right here, for example, and let's say create a new store. I don't know which one, BTC Maxi, that's what we are. Then create a store here, and she's gonna have like this store set up right here, right? And she could come here, go Bitcoin, let's create a new wallet. Of course, this is mainnet, but I'm not gonna reuse all these methods. So create, I have written, and haven't flooded. That's for demo, that's okay. Okay, so that's the regular Bitcoin native BTCPay wallet, and the person like come here, manage plugins, and the person have a lot of plugins to choose from, right? Right, this one's already installed, because I installed it before, but to install from file, which is a really nice addition from BTCPay Server, like come here, upload plugin, and it will upload here standard, right? And after uploading it, installing, you need to restart, and then it will show from this part right here. You'll see like this like gray, which means that it has not been activated yet. So how will the merchant start receiving money directly without needing to manage the Lightning channels? It's going right here, bar, accept Lightning and ARC payments, and the configuration of their server and the chain source, it has already been defaulted, and confirm and enable. There you go, right, really easy, and then the merchant can already start receiving Lightning payments. And I'm gonna skip a little bit on this part, and then we can come back here. Let's say the merchant already wants to receive payment. You go back to invoice. That's one of the calls that can be made like from other parts. Create invoice and put like here, $3. Create invoice.
You can also increase text a little bit.
Sorry?
Browser increase text.
Oh, increase. Okay. Is this better? Yeah? Okay, sorry. If there's anything you guys can't see, please just stop me. That's good, you're fine. Thank you, Rockstar.
I'll wait to pay the invoice.
Okay, you wanna go there, pay?
Who will be first?
Who wants to pay it?
I'm competing with myself.
I want to see you guys pay it. I can send back later if that's an issue, yeah.
Don't you? Got you.
Yeah, let's see if it's paid. Cool, there you go. Pretty easy, right? And yeah, so it is that easy to receive Lightning payment without the like mentions of that. And then you can see right here, it received on the Lightning and all that, just regular stuff that you would see, payment proof. And yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Now going back to the Borg plugin itself, like let's say the merchant really wants to see how everything is working. On the main page, you'll have like all the transaction it has, like Lightning Seal and all that. He can also send and receive, and he can also inspect the VTXOs itself because they're all on disk, right? So you can see like exactly what he needs. Like for example, all the information, if he's a power user, oh, there you go, you have like the expiry block height, and it's expandable. And it already has auto refresh on it. I don't like on ARC, each VTXO has like a time log, how long it needs to live, how much it can live, and then you need to auto refresh it so that you can be sure of your self custody, right? Because it's a self custody solution. So it is gonna auto refresh, and this can be changed, the hours can be changed on settings. But if you're a power user and you're like, oh no, I want to refresh it myself, you could click here and click refresh, right? I'm not gonna click this because this is gonna take a while, which is the refresh frame. But the user can also click here and say, oh, I want to offboard this transaction. Offboard is a cooperative path to taking your money from the off-chain into an on-chain address. And this can be also pretty easily done. And then like you see like other info here, like when it's going to be the next round of their server. And on the settings page, you can go here and like accept like large payments that are enabled, refresh and receive to enable max security, but you also need to pay a little bit more fees on that. And you can also set the refresh threshold here. And let's say like for some kind of crazy reason, like you could not do an offboard and you say, oh yeah, but I want my money back. Well, you already have your money. It's not like you don't need to go to the server and like, oh yes, I want my money back. No, nothing like that. You already have the money. But if the server is like unresponsive, the server turns adversarial, you like need to go to the danger zone and do emergency at sea, which is just publishing the transactions on chain. And for that, you need like to have a little bit of balance on chain wallet to cover for the fees. And yeah, that's the whole walkthrough. I could like do send BTC, send ARC address without fees, Lightning address, Lightning voice on chain. This already supports BIP321, which is like the whole different kind of addresses in one QR code. You can also receive BTC, and this one's gonna show like, for example, which chains are going to be used on chain or ARC address, and it's not showing Lightning because we don't currently support a zero amount. But if you put an amount here, let's say 1,000 sets, then it already automatically enables the Lightning address as well. Yeah, I think that's all that I had to show. You have something else to say, Matthew?
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight also in our receive QR code that you saw on the screen is that we don't want people who are using ARC payments to have to now think, oh, I need to know my other ARC address. Am I going to be sending Lightning or am I going to be sending on ARC? You send a Lightning payment from your ARC-enabled Lightning wallet, and when you scan the QR code, if both the sender and the recipient are on the same ARC, it defaults into that being an ARC payment. So you don't have to come up to the QR code and ask, oh, is this going to be an ARC or is this going to be a Lightning? You don't have to know about that at all. You just scan it as if it's any other Lightning invoice, and then the system itself knows the sender and the recipient. They're both in the same ARC. We're going to do this as an ARC payment rather than a Lightning payment.
Thank you very much. We have any questions? One over there.
So my question is about the refresh logic. I want to know how it's working under the hood in the plugin, and if you guys have any mechanism to protect, to prevent users from losing funds.
So the things that we use connectors for the whole refresh thing, right? And what they mean is that they're atomic, like your Alice is always going to be in control of their own money. Wait. Forfeit. Okay, so we use forfeit with hash locks, that should be HRF. Increase the font size. Yeah, sorry. So we use forfeits. We dropped connectors to use the HRF solution, and we use forfeits. What does that mean? That means that, let me take that. This is the best one. Okay, here. Let's say that Alice holds this BTCO right here on this side, on the left side, and she wants to refresh, right? This BTCO needs to be refreshed before the Alice time off goes down. And what she does is that she's gonna ask the server, hey, I want to refresh this BTCO, and the server will go like, okay. So let's make a chain of transactions. And on this chain of transactions, you're gonna forfeit to an address that can be fulfilled, that can be spent with your signature, my signature, and a pre-image, which is why we call it HRF. It's a hash ARC, right? And she's like, okay, but I need to have a VTXO on the next round that has a refresh timeout. So in order to make sure that Alice can reclaim that VTXO and can like enforce the server to be honest, or she has her money back, which means atomic, the server is going to build a transaction that can be spent with Alice, the server, and the preimage, or the server after the timeout. And then she's going to have her BTCO. Now, what is the main thing on this one? On this transaction right here in the middle, she has unilateral exit again. She can hold this money again if the server does not release the preimage, which means that either the server releases the preimage and then she can unlock this transaction here and claims her BTCO on the next round, or if the server never releases the preimage, she still keeps her old BTCO and she can do a unilateral exit. And all of these time locks, they are made in a way that one cannot cheat the other. You don't have like a punishment as in Lightning. It is just like if one is not honest, the other just keep the money. So that's how it works. Is it clear? Yeah? Okay. Any more questions? Do we have time for more questions? The people want to have more questions. Yes.
No, people keep asking questions. I actually wanted to say I'm just so impressed by your demo, by how it's working. So here he goes.
Yeah, good stuff. My question is like, why can't I run the server, and what's the incentive for you running the server? And is there a scenario when the server liquidity might run out and you cannot be able to accept a Lightning payment?
That is a good question. Like, we make sure that all of our code base is open source, right? We love that. And so we have our repo here, our main repo, artbitcoin gitlab/artbitcoin, and you can see all of our repos. And we have the Park repo right here. And this repo also has like the captain, right? And you can run your own server if you want. The main issue, main difficulty maybe, would be running their server and doing the integration with your Lightning node and managing the Lightning channels. So what we do to make easier for clients, of course, is that we do the whole thing. The client still has self-custody, and the client doesn't need to manage the Lightning channel, the Lightning nodes, because that's what most people want, right? But if you want to run your own art server, yes, you can. You just call the repo and you deploy it. As for the second part of the question, which is about the Lightning liquidity, yes, that is something that we work to make sure that we always have inbound liquidity as well. So that's one of the costs of the server, right? Because I need to manage the channels. And we do that as kind of like, we do this whole service for the users, for the clients, and the way that we can make sure that this keeps being online for the clients is that we charge fees. So if we go for our page right here, we can have, is it on the main page? Down here, okay, fees. Then we have all the breakdown of the fees. So like, for example, for our payments inside the trees, inside the Ethereum trees, it's 0% Lightning cents. You have 0.2 to 0.5% with 20 cent minimum. On Lightning receive, which is like usually the hardest part, right? When you want to have self-custody, Lightning receive, what you need to do is that you need to open a channel to start receiving money. So that's kind of weird. And we solve that for you. And then you have a 0% Lightning receive. But for Lightning cents, you do pay fees. For boarding into the org, you only pay the on-chain fee. For on-chain send and off-board, which was that cooperative path, you pay 0.2% plus the on-chain fees. And then for refreshes, which was the forfeit, you pay from 0 to 0.5%. This depends on the time of your refresh. Because if you refresh 28 days before the refresh time, this art server needs to make sure that he holds this liquidity, because he's only going to be able to reclaim that money after 28 days. So he has a cost of opportunity here. So that's one of the things that you need to keep in mind if you are going to run art server well. Yeah, thank you, Rockstar, and thank you for letting us do a demo here. I just wanted to give a shout out to this guy right here. He's the one who built the plugin. I did not build it. He's the one who built it. So I also just kind of like this push to
What I want to do is just show you some of the new features we've been working on, and then also give you a peek behind the scenes about what goes on when people submit places, and then talk about the BTCPay Server integration that a few of us have been working on for the last couple of weeks or so. Recently we've changed our mapping engine, so we've gone to a full vector native solution using Map Libra. Previously, we've been using Leaflet, which has been around for ages, but is not particularly good on the vector side. We were kind of mashing up a few different things, but I asked one of the lead web devs if we could have map rotation on the mobile on WebView, and that led to a wholesale ripping out of our mapping engine a couple of weeks ago. So now we have the new fancy map. That enables much smoother scrolling, as you can see, and then we also get cool features like this that we can spin around the world. So if you're ever feeling sad about merchant adoption, you can just go to and blow up the globe and have a spin around the world and see where you can plan your next holiday or whatever.
What about the moon? Not yet.
The moon. We're not there yet, but there was a feature. I did a flat Earth interpretation as well. So there is an Easter egg. Yeah, you'll see it. There's a post out on Nostr with the flat Earth version of BTC Map. We have an ice wall around the outside. So yeah, you can dig through the repo and probably find the Easter egg if you're really interested in seeing that wall. So just want to showcase the apps that we're integrated. So we've got our own suite of apps, the Android and the web app. iOS app is not great. So if you've got any iOS maintainers want to come help us make that better, then please come say hi. But as you can see, pretty much every other wallet has given up trying to maintain a map now, and either embed BTC Map directly using the web app, web views, etc. So Wallet Satoshi, Aqua, those guys do that. And then other wallets will integrate the API directly. And then we've also got Blink Wallet working on an integration, and the Bull guys too. So yeah, we're pretty much now well established as being the map for Bitcoin merchants. So other stuff I just want to show you quickly. Everyone knows we list merchants, but we also list over 500 communities around the world as well. So if you're traveling around and you want to meet up with some Bitcoiners, you can hook very easily into the local communities there. And they range from, meetups to full-fledged circular economies. Yeah, and we can take a look at the local one here in Prague. Get all of the merchants, those that have been boosted. You can see are listed here as well. And then for community maintainers, you can also go into any maintenance tasks you have, whether you've got to re-verify places and make sure that they're up to date. We can also see the stats as well. Any guesses what happened here? Giacomo knows. These were the ThgO.O merchants. And so very recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had to remove about 900 across the Czech Republic ThgO.O merchants because they stopped accepting Bitcoin as a payment method. But Giacomo was announcing that on stage yesterday. I was like, no. Yeah. So hopefully they come back, but some regulatory bullshit has caused them to remove those for the time being. But that said, if you go to our dashboard, we have merchant number go up, so that's over the last 3 months. Yeah, we can look across different time periods here. This was ThgO.O coming off. This was a lot of activity down in South Africa with the Money Badger integration, so they're effectively hacking into legacy QR networks. There's hundreds of thousands of merchants down there that are not mapped on the map yet, just given the scale. And then down here, this is where Square came online. So you can see there's a steady increase, nice and healthy as well. It's not like hockey stick numbers, hockey stick shapes. It's an incremental increase in the merchants being added. So yeah, I just wanted to say what happens behind the scenes, and then also come on to what we're doing with BTCPay Server on that one. So yeah, anybody can simply just fill out this form, and what that does in the back end is raises an issue within our own self-hosted Git instance. So we actually got kicked off GitHub for spamming them because we had lots of tickets being opened. And when people were mentioning in the request, like their Twitter handles and everything, it was resolving those in GitHub. And so we were inadvertently mentioning people in lots of issues on GitHub. And they thought we were spammers and they kicked us out. So it's a good thing because it makes you spin up your own infrastructure and your own repos and stuff. So it's actually a healthy thing long term. But as you can see, we're still getting many Square submissions daily. So we added about 6,000 in the first 8 weeks or so, back in November, December last year. But they're still coming through every day. And we built a special integration for Square so that they could hit our API rather than fill out a form, which is not sensible at their scale. And also they didn't want to have to deal with OpenStreetMaps, which is what we use in the background for all of the open data that we store in there and the Bitcoin tagging that we've standardized through that community. So our army of shadowy super taggers around the world monitor this and distribute that work. We try and distribute it to taggers that are as local to the locale as possible, because they're the best people to be able to verify that that information is correct. We make sure that the location is precise. Lots of the geotagging coming through from Square, actually, they use Google, is pretty poor. So we have to make sure that that data is much more accurate. Okay, so this is a test from the other week. I don't think it's quite fully announced yet, but there is now a BTC Map extension for BTCPay Server. So what you're able to do now is, perhaps you're running a BTCPay Server on behalf of a community or a country or whatever else, and you've got multiple stores on there. So using the extension that will be released shortly, the tests are all working. You'll, as a runner, as an individual merchant, you'll be able to just hit a checkbox and you will appear on BTC Map once you have been verified by one of our shadowy super taggers. So that's using the same API that we developed for Square and now rolling that out to other projects. For example, Pagan-Yourno, which is another user of BTCPay Server, so there's a nice circularity there between the three projects. So as they're onboarding new merchants with BTCPay Server, those users will be able to opt into being onboarded directly onto BTC Map without having to do anything other than check a box. So I think that's great. So you need to add us onto this page. Okay, I'll just finish up on how you can support the project should you wish to. Of course, we welcome contributions. It's quite a technical crowd today. So yeah, come find us online, contribute to one of the projects. iOS in particular needs some love right now. And if you're not technical, you can also just start tagging and maintaining the data, preferably in your local area, but also, we have a small team doing that on a global basis because we haven't fully distributed that data maintenance yet. So come help us tag. If you want to send us some Satoshis, they're also welcome. So you can be part of the pleb wall if you donate via Geyser with the links there. Your face will appear. And then we've got a few more corporate sponsors recently, which is good. So we recently got some Spiral grant early this year, which is really helping. And hopefully, Alex, we can add HRF onto that at some point soon, but that's on us to apply. Yep, and then if you don't want to go through Geyser and you just want to send some anonymous donations, then you can use one of the two links below for Lightning or on-chain. So yeah, happy to field any questions. If people have got questions about the project or the integration or anything else, happy to answer those.
I just wanted to know if you guys have any plan to support online stores.
Yeah, that's one of our most requested features, actually. So the way we're going to do that is, I showed you all the communities earlier. So as an online provider, or maybe your meat space provider, like a plumber, but you don't have a place of business, you might operate from your house or whatever, and you don't want to put your house on BTC Map for obvious reasons. You'll be able to tag one or more communities that you serve. So that's linking back into this circularity argument and having merchants being members of the communities. And that can be, those areas can not just be communities, they could be regions, states, counties, whatever else, or countries or worldwide. So if you're an online, designer or software engineer, then you could list yourself on the globe with that. So yeah, coming soon.
Nathan, what does somebody need to do if they're a shadowy super tagger? What do you want from us to become one of those, and what do we do?
Yeah, we've got a super simple onboarding process. So if you go to the website, I don't know where it is. I think it's under maintain, and you can just fill out a form, and then one of our more experienced taggers will onboard you to the tools that you need to do it, walk you through what tags are required for on-chain payments and mining payments, etc. So yeah, we'll walk you through the process, and then ultimately you get an OSN account, and you can start tagging. Pretty simple.
Can you elaborate a little bit about the cost and the fallout of the GitHub ban? Because I think that's happened to this project because of the particular frequency of the request. But in theory, something that could happen to everything, including Bitcoin Core and BTCPay Server and everything. And I'm thinking, even if Git itself is already decentralized, so it's fine, you may have things like losing some issues, conversation within the GitHub issues that are not within the Git standard itself, or maybe seeing a decrease in contribution because coordinating a push on the repository is slightly less efficient than just go on GitHub. So if you can comment on that, probably is useful for other projects as well.
I think it's sure Nostr fixes this. Right now. So I don't know if people are aware of projects like Ngit on Nostr, which provides some of the things around Git, because Git's good. We don't need to remake Git, but some of this more social stuff that traditionally GitHub has provided, it can now be provided in a permissionless way. So yeah, it wasn't just the fact that we were spamming GitHub that we got banned on that account. But also now with agentic AI, I have my bot called Dave, and Dave was pushing PRs and reviewing and commenting on things, which was fine for a couple of days, and then Dave got banned. And he wrote a very nice letter to GitHub to appeal on his ban, but he didn't get a response. So yeah, I don't want to have to ask GitHub for permission for one of my clankers to make changes. And so, yeah, I think there's some very promising work being done on Nostr that decentralizes that and means that it's done in a permissionless environment.
Any more questions before we close? And if not, please applause for Nathan. BTC Maps.
So let's go. So I will talk about what I have been building in the last few months with the help of the BTCPay team. So we make a really interesting refactor that now we have the options to create some roles for users that is limited by functionality of the wallet. So now we have some permissions for users that can only create transactions, can sign transactions, can broadcast transactions. So we added more permissions in a granular mode. So I will showcase two roles that we added using this permission. So first is Multisignature. Let's create here a Rockstar BTCPay account. Let's see. Now I'm talking about you. You were asking for Nicolas to be in his presentation. Now you are. So we will add another user that is Nicolas. So we have the option here now when you are creating a wallet. Beside the other options that already existed, we added this new one that is the Multisig setup. So it's really beautiful, the UI that we have been working, in my humble opinion. But here you can select how many participants you want in your Multisig setup. So you can add the total signature and the required signatures and the script type. We are using the default, so we are going to create a 2 out of 3 Multisig. Now we will add manager account, Nicolas account, and Rockstar account. We will send the request. So here we got this page that is basically a session link that users that are allowed to see this can see the status of the request of the submission. We also have a mail pit here running. So if you can see at the moment that I submitted, they send the email, so users can click here and start submitting. They put the signer key. So if I click here, there will be two options for you to set up this. You can use the safest and recommended one, that is with hardware wallet. I have one here with me, so I will show how the process will work basically. So for those who don't know, we have the BTCPay Server Vault. That is an application that integrates with hardware wallet, and it's made by the BTCPay team. It's a really safe software. So he's trying to connect right now in my hard wallet. Just a few moments. So here I'm using old Trezor Model 1 for just testing stuff. So now he will verify the PIN of hard wallet, and then he will fetch all the information that he needs, only read-only stuff like xpub. So the keys never left the device. So now he fetched.
This is the standard. I won't change anything, but if you guys want anything more customized, you can do whatever you prefer. I will just confirm. We will fetch in my public keys.
And Java, can you just decrease the text a little bit?
That's good. Yeah. So now the BTCPay Server vault has already fetched my pub key, my account key path from my hard wallet. So I will submit my signer key. So here you can check that is submitted the key from Manager BTCPay. So if we go here, we can see a few more notifications saying that the signer has already submitted, and we can go to Rockstar, so he can submit, he also submit. So here you can see that it's appear the same session link because he has permission to see it, so he can submit. This one I'll go by the path of manual entry, so just for setup, but this isn't the best way to do this. So I will get some export here that I have. And the path key path. So boom, as Rockstar like to say, boom, submitted. Now we do this for Nicolas. We can go here and submit another signer key. I can't keep this. Submitted. So now I won't be able in this account to create the Multisig wallet because this user doesn't have the permission. So I will get back to the manager account that now he is able to create the Multisig since all signer keys was submitted. So then you can confirm the others and boom, created. So by default, he will enable all the settings that is needed for Multisig stuff. So we can come here, get some funds in the wallet, and make a test sending. So since this is a Multisig, you only have the option to create a pending transaction. Then he will appear here with showing that how many signatures was collected and how many is missing. So we can sign with our hard wallet. We will fetch the device and check if the transaction can be signed by this device. Yeah, so as I like to say, this for me is the safest way to use BTCPay Server with Multisig stuff and hard wallets. So that's why I loved working on this feature.
It's both you and Nicolas.
I can speak for him. But yeah, now it's showing here the address that I'm sending, the amount, so I will just confirm. And let's see, we'll sign. Yeah, signed. So it will appear like one collected and one missing. So we can go here to right here on, and we can see that the permissions here is different, so it doesn't appear that send because this user can create wallet transaction. So we will sign. In a horrible way, don't do this, but this is just for testing purpose. So yeah, now it's signed, but since this user doesn't have broadcast permission, I will get back to the manager one that has, so he can broadcast, and boom, done. Thank you guys for the applause.
Fractal Encrypt, can I dox you at least that name? I can, yeah. Was in charge of the beautiful art gallery at BTC Prague. Nice. Did you know that? Can we get applause for... No, that was a beautiful art gallery, right? And didn't sell well. No. Did it sell well or no?
I definitely think that the buyers got really good deals there. It was kind of bear market vibes, but the thing is the display itself, I got so many positive feedback on the exposure that the artists got and the connections that people make. I think there's a lot of value that came through the conference, not all financial, but everything financial that did come through the conference came through BTCPay Server. And that's one of the things that I'm here to talk about. In essence, BTCPay Server has really made my whole life a lot more sovereign. You know, I've been able to become my own payment processor as well as my own auction house. You know, in the past, I basically had to use other platforms, even before Bitcoin, you know, things like Etsy or Amazon or whatever it was where I was selling was, you know, not only do you have a payment processor that's not yours, but the entire web platform is not yours. So any dispute, there's no reasonable thing that can happen other than what you're basically deemed by fiat to be the truth. So BTCPay Server kind of removed all of the barriers from my life in a way that's just transformed the way I'm able to kind of live. So it's really an inspiring project to me. I love to support it in whatever way I can because it really makes my whole life possible. This weekend is a perfect example of why BTCPay Server is so cool. I have it mostly on my website, so it's, you know, not a brick and mortar store. Everybody's going online to make purchases. So all the other galleries I've run in the past have been completely online. So if somebody wants to buy something, they go to the website and buy. BTCPay Server handles that flawlessly. Of course, there's no revelation there. What was cool was a couple weeks ago, because I'm not super timely and I had a lot of things going on. I asked my friend, hey, you know, they're giving us a boost this year where artists can actually sell prints and stuff, so we're gonna have like almost a brick and mortar temporary store. So they're gonna bring a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what it is. I can't put it on my website in advance. I'm just gonna let them, you know, sell there and we'll collect the payments. So can you get me a POS terminal? Because I seen them running around the world with bags full of these things. And I figured it was like not a big deal. Yes, you can send me one. And he said, well, you know, the event actually has an official payment processor, if not us, so you should just ask the conference. And I was like, all right, well, you know, because...
No, I'm not doing that, Rockstar. I mean, I hear POS from the code.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, that was what I was hoping for, because now I have to tell the conference, okay, I want to use your payment processor, but can I connect it to my BTCPay server? And they were like, yes, we'll get to the payment processor, but no, you can't connect it to your BTCPay server. All right, fine, not a problem. We'll just let the artist sell through there. It's totally, you know, we'll work it out. When I get to the event, the payment processor guy finds me. He was like, okay, I have this terminal for you. And he basically gave me a set of things that it could and couldn't do. That's like handing it to you and saying, this doesn't work. Good luck, buddy. And that was actually the truth. You know, the first thing he told me was that you'll probably have to process all the payments offline because there's no internet here really so you're not gonna be able to connect. So here's how you do it offline. I mean, first of all, what are we even doing here? You know, and then second of all, he's like, and the currency that you charge people in will be Czech kroners because that's all this machine handles.
Yeah. Imagine accepting dollars in Czech.
Now, bro, this place, I don't know whether Czech, like, And most of the artists are like, I brought 30 artists in here from around the country, from around the globe. Most of them don't know the Czech crown conversion to BTC. I mean, of course, you all have Google, so, you know, assuming you can access the internet again, you can make the conversion. So I went back to the booth. I took a little video of me making a fake test transaction with this and sent it to the artist and say, hey, when you get to the booth, this is what you're going to use. But by the time I had finished the video, it was like,
terrible.
I can't let the artist use this, you know? 2 weeks, when I did ask him about POS, he said, well, what you could do is set your BTCPay server up as a POS that people can connect to right from their phones. And it was pretty mind-blowing. I was like, are you for real? He's like, yeah, but I was honestly so busy getting ready for the event with trying to finish the art piece that I didn't end up displaying that I just couldn't pay attention to that. And I just put it in my back of my mind and okay, that is what it does. When this happened, I just went directly into the production room, morning of the event starting, and in 20 minutes I had a POS app set up that every single artist could connect to with a simple URL. They type in their thing, they even had a little form that will capture the artist's name and the artwork title, so I can keep everything organized on the back end. It's not a mess when I look at a million payments. You know, it's easy to see what happened where. Now we don't have one POS terminal that doesn't work. We have 30 artists with 30 POS terminals in their pocket. So no matter where you are in the gallery, you can address a customer. You don't need to wait on somebody else that's processing for somebody else or failing to process for someone else so you can fail. So, game changer. So that was really my main story. Like BTCPay Server pretty much saved the gallery this weekend.
Can we get applause for that? Come on. Yeah, really, man. You are such a perfect user of BTCPay Server, and I love to share these moments with you because they're also like such uncle moments. I say something, and then down the road there's a light bulb. And then you provide POS for 30 artists that then can accept payments. I mean, we even think Pavlenex, we had someone online thanking us, like I thank you BTCPay Server, no, I thank you Fractal Equip. And then they kept processing payments throughout the...
I mean, and this is not a small thing, you know, like these artists are, you know, they're struggling, they're traveling from here to a lot of costs to stay in a hotel, they pay the material costs for all this stuff. So for them to come here, it's hard enough to convince anybody to part with their Bitcoin anyway. So that's the biggest thing. Like you are not going to come off their Bitcoin unless you've done good work. If you're at the point where they're already ready to pay you and your processor fails you, that's like catastrophic as far as I'm concerned, especially for an artist. Like that's just unacceptable to me. So I'm so happy that you guys do what you do and give you full praise and just really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, thank you, Fractal, for sharing the story and for people who can hear how BTCPay Server is used. And now we're gonna hear it from the rest of the team. Come on, Pavlenex. Well, I'm telling you, man, the more I learn about how BTCPay Server is used, it's just amazing. What about you, Pavlenex? Are you retiring the BTCPay to switch to the ordering pizzas? Or
Man, these pizzas guys today gave me so much stress. Apologies everybody for having to wait for pizzas, and the rest of you will get another batch. It's coming. Yeah, I mean, besides ordering pizzas, just excited. Thank you everybody for being here. Awesome to interact with all of you. We had a booth, so it was amazing to just hear the stories of the user that used BTCPay. It was also even more interesting how we talk about projects to the users who are very new to Bitcoin, and which talking points you use to explain BTCPay to these new users. Because when you tell them you're your own payment processors, it's like a concept that they cannot really understand easily. So it took a while for us to try to explain to them there are no fees. And they're like, this is what they understand. They're like, how can there be no fees? And then we're like, well, do you know what Bitcoin wallet is? We start there, you hook this thing up to this thing, and then you receive payments to this beautiful QR page to your wallet directly. And for them, that thing clicked. So yeah, I'm just grateful that we had an opportunity to chat with users, and for us as I guess developers and people working in tech, it's good to hear direct stories from the users, because then you are grounded when you're building. You actually understand first why this matters. Second, which problems do these users actually have, instead of trying to go top down with some technical solutions for them. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm excited about. Long answer, but yeah.
All right. It's incredible the growth of everyone that comes here. Like, there's been so many projects that were started and just sounded like rumors a couple years ago, and now it is full-fledged products, and the plugin system has just like flourished, this ecosystem of people being able to work with BTCPay Server and integrate easily. And I'm just so proud of everyone in the room that's like come so far in the last 5 years. I mean, we seemed so scrappy back then, but now this is like insane to see the growth. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. So, most interesting for me talking with people on the booth was really like how they like see BTC Pay. So many just go, okay, it's a payment processor, but then you tell them like, yeah, by which you can do all kinds of things like ticket sales, and they're really blown away. I should have done a talk about subscriptions, which is a new big feature we have. And like, I was talking with people, they are already using us, and they were like blown away that you now can do subscriptions with BTC Pay. And Nicolas really did a lot of work with this, and he really almost rebuilt like the same system like Stripe has. So you can do prorating, you can do upgrades, downgrades, you have a credit balance, you can prepay and all that stuff. So it's really amazing, and I'm looking forward to people using it and giving us feedback to even improve it more.
Well, for me, it's just great to see that our work as a BTCPay team is changing the world. So when people comes to our booth and feels amazing, like, well, how do you guys are managing to make this happen, you know, without zero fees and all this stuff? So for me, that I was in the fiat job when uncles saved me is amazing, because now I can see real the impact of what I have been doing in all these months. So yeah, it's amazing, and all the support that we have. I was in the beginning of the year, I was in El Salvador also, and now I'm here, and a lot of people coming through me and saying, man, the job that you guys are doing is so awesome. You are changing the world in a manner that wasn't possible before. So yeah, that's what that is all about bringing back the user sovereignty, and how they say, spread the word of the privacy and what really matter, so we can avoid this fucking fiat system and live our lives in the way that we find better. So it's
So let's go. Let's make that happen. Now, man, thank you for all your work. And what you're saying is yeah, my experience as well. When people approach you and tell you, oh, thank you for your work, Rockstar, when it's really all of us. That's what you realize. Is just by participating in a better system, you are doing the work you would already be doing. You know, if you're part of some fiat company or VC funded startup where you're pumping shareholder value, when you're part of a better system like BTCPay Server team and FOSS, it's almost like, hey, the work that BTC Maps is doing is phenomenal, and we could just build on each other's work, and we can just provide value to each other without even necessarily trying. And like telling, yeah, what I tell all the people that come and say, thank you, Rockstar, first I'm like, no, like, thank you. We're doing it together. I'm just the developers. So yeah, with that, I wanted to more again make it a conversation. So we now have more than one mic, and any questions that you have for a team, let's hear it and we will answer it. Pavlenex, you want to walk?
Gladly.
Just borrow some beats.
Yeah, YouTubers, yeah.
When I came in earlier, somebody had mentioned pay join, and it made me start thinking, I wonder if I could trick my customers into better privacy by like when they make a payment for art, like pay joining with them. So I'm curious on like the user flow for that. Is it just, obviously you would need a change address for the user, which is not your normal user flow, but is that hidden in the QR maybe? Or how does the pay join flow? Like, is there a way I could basically set it up where I would be able to pay join with them in a painless, easy, kind of frictionless way, similar to what they're used to, either main chain or
What do you know?
What? I mean, if you label it and you have a fault wallet and server, there is not really difference for them either. So
okay.
Yeah, ví dụ là BTS mà Pagan này sau này tôi issue.
Oh, well, that's a big issue.
Yeah, but I think with the way PayJoin now works, and they're gonna correct this, especially if you publish this video. There is a fallback, so you can still, especially this PayJoin version 2 that's been going around. It's intelligent enough that you get QR code and the amount. And then you get the optional query string parameter that gives you PayJoin information. So
If they don't have,
If the payer doesn't have a PayJoin labeled wallet, it will, the US will be good because it will default back to a normal payment. But they still have to have, you cannot trick a normal, because you need the payer to basically share included the receiver UTXO inside the impulse is something that you cannot do in a stealth way for the spender. But you can do the way that they face gracefully, that if the spender doesn't know what the PayJoin is, it's just a normal payment. Then in the future, the challenge will be to even integrate that with all the payment protocol like signing payment and all the lightning stuff like enemy or L12. So at the end, the future is that you don't have to ask the payer, which of the 100 kind of invoice do you want? Do you want a bark? Do you want an arcade? No, just one address, some will win, and we'll incorporate all the others.
no, honestly, after seeing the BARC presentation today, I think a lot of merchants are just going to switch to that because you can pay over Lightning, on-chain, whatever, and you're just securing the virtual UTXO. It is kind of like CoinJoin to me.
I mean, for the Bull wallet, it's by default. So if you scan a page on QR code, it's gonna send it. For Cake wallet, I think you need to switch it on. But it's still a bit clunky to me because I've done like a tutorial about it, and I know it didn't work from Bull to Cake and from Cake to Bull because it didn't have the exact same implementation. I'm personally bullish as fuck on PayJoin, and I don't think it's there yet in terms of tech. And I was curious, you were talking about subscription stuff. How is BTCPay Server? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so now it is basically a subscription system, and how Nicolas made it work so that you can have all the use cases with upgrades, downgrades, and even discontinue, like subscription plans. It is like you have a credit balance. So it's like you can pay $100 and then it gets subtracted for them, or you just pay 1 month and then you will get a reminder that you need to top up your credit balance, basically. And yeah, like I said, have you any specific question how it works? Or so it's the same like Stripe works, essentially.
The reminder is like an email?
Yes. So you can configure your email server. So you provide login data for email server, and it will send all notification mails. So this is reminder, or when the expiry happens, it will always include the link to the payment quarter, so the user can pay for the next month or top up the credit.
Pavlenex, should I tell people how Nicolas was inspired to do this feature, or we skip it?
We can always cut this off with the
No, we'll keep it private. So yeah, no. Two more questions. If we have like.
I just wanted, Ndeet, can you add a little bit more on, we were discussing subscription, but I think one feature of BTCPay Server that we shipped and we haven't talked about enough is like that users who host BTCPay Server can onboard others to it, and now with subscriptions they can even monetize it. So you host BTCPay Server for your local community, and you charge very small maintenance fee for these merchants, a couple of bucks per month, without ever being custodian of their funds. So you're not like financial institution, you're like support guy, ID support, onboarding, provide a front end for their own wallets. So maybe that's something to also highlight.
Yeah, so the underlying is the subscription plugin, but on top of that we have a plugin called monetization. And this is exactly for the use case, so that ambassadors are usually people hosting BTCPay for other people or merchants. They can now very easily, like, it's a point-and-click wizard where we can go through, and it will set up a basic payment plan and set up also the reminder emails and the expiry emails. So you will be ready to charge your users a small fee in like 2 minutes clicking through all the steps.
Okay, let's see. More questions? Ideas? And Subrez doesn't have a lot of feature requests or ideas on what we need to do better.
Oh, that's because I promised him.
I only have
for
feature lists, so yeah. Okay.
Because again, like, I think everyone is tired. We're waiting for pizza. We can also start wrapping it up.
These will write for the next BTC Day.
Oh, okay.
Maybe hopefully. 2 weeks.
No, but the thing is then, thank you for joining us for this BTC Payday. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for supporting us so much over the years we were doing this. And please keep doing that. Please keep sending the feedback. Please, when I yell at Uncle, yell. And that's fine. Because again, the more you yell, the more I get paid with Bitcoin. So, things are good. And then it's really a pleasure doing this with all of you, and let's keep doing that for many years to come. Thank you.